Obviously, practice number 10 today. I think, overall, when you look at it defensively, they've played with a lot of energy every single day. I think we have really, really good quality depth. The big emphasis this week as we go into it, we're about to go 5, 6 straight days. And, we're really working right now on situational awareness and becoming situational masters. But proud of the group overall. I think these guys really, really enjoy playing together. I think there's a true love, there's true brotherhood. I'm on both sides of the ball. I think when you look at how competitive it's been, there's definitely been a mutual respect for the brotherhood. So it's been a good first 10 days, and from there I'll open it up.
Blake, just your assessment of your safety plays so far through camp.
Yeah, so it's usually the burning question, and rightfully so. I've been really, really pleased with those guys. I think Coach Olson and Coach Joseph, one, it helps being in year two. And then two, I think with the additions of Tamarcus Cooley and A.J. Halsey, it's been really, really good, especially with A.J. He's played a lot of football. He's extremely instinctual, one of the most instinctual players I've been around. So him just having that awareness and the communication. But when you look at the depth in that room, again, we talk about Deshaun Spears, Toviano, Jordan Gilbert. It's a good problem to have. It's a good luxury to have, and that's kind of going to be the recurring theme as we move on. When I really feel good about our depth across the board, but especially at that position, I think they're coming along very, very well.
Hey, Coach, how much better do you feel about Harold Perkins this time around, working with him now going on 2 years, and what can he be this season?
Yeah, I felt really good about Harold Perkins last year, and unfortunately got hurt. I think the most encouraging thing that I've seen is it never looked like he's had knee surgery. He's moving around very, very fluid. We're going to be smart with him according, to his reps and make sure that he's ready to go on the 30th. But he's just so dynamic. I think out there in space, when you see his ability to close, if there's a check down to the flat or obviously coming off the edge or even internally, he just has a sixth gear that not many guys in college football possess. And so to have that luxury, I think he's more comfortable out there. I really do. And I've seen growth from him. He's very coachable, but I'm excited to see what he does this season.
Hey, Blake. Coach Kelly's spoken a lot this offseason about how important it was to give you the pieces that you needed to fit kind of your style of defense. You can speak in general terms or have a specific example, but just how does the pieces that y'all have brought in this offseason fit what you want to do with this defense in 2025?
Part of the job of being a defensive coordinator is obviously fitting the scheme to your players. And every coordinator has specific things that they want to have the luxury to do, right? I think when you look across the board, I think it's twofold. I think from an overall athleticism standpoint, we've upgraded, and then also from a experience standpoint. We brought in, like we've talked about 1,000 times, guys have played a lot of football. And I'll kind of leave it at that to get into too many specifics, but I think those are the two biggest generalizations.
Like, just wondering, what's it like to have to defend Trey'Dez Green? For your defense, any defense, what kind of difference maker is he?
Well, yeah, Trey'Dez he's an unbelievable athlete. He's got the ability to flex out like a receiver and be a mismatch. And then he's physical in the run game. The one thing, especially, he's a highly touted basketball player that doesn't necessarily translate to physicality. Trey'Dez will throw it in there. So he provides a problem. The other thing he provides a problem with is you don't know, depending on what personnel, they can line up in a lot of different formations. So he's a mismatch, and I think Coach Sloan and that offensive staff does a really, really nice job of trying to put him in advantageous situations.
What's it like having all three Weeks brothers on the same team, and what's it like having Whit and Wes playing together a lot?
It's a lot of fun. Those three brothers are they're fun to coach. Zach's like a lot of freshmen. He's probably getting coached a lot meaner than the other two, but that just comes with the territory. But those three guys, especially the two older ones, that have been in here, man, great leaders. All the stuff that they do from a tangible standpoint, what's more impressive is how they carry themselves off the field. They do everything the right way. They're the type of guys, you want your daughter to marry, and I don't say that lightly. I think those three guys are phenomenal young men. Obviously, their play on the field speaks for itself, but what they do off the field and how they carry themselves and the job that David and Aaron have done raising them it's fun to coach. There's not a lot of high maintenance with those three.
Coach, the elephant in the room this year from last year, obviously, stop, run, pass option with the quarterback. You got about 5 guys you'll be facing that can hurt your Sellers and the rest of them. Talk about that progress. And secondly, at what point in camp do you are able to ascertain you can put pressure with your front four? And talk about the depth. It looks like you got 4 DTs and 4 DNs that are all going to play.
Yeah, I think one of the things when you go back and look at last year with stopping a running quarterback, I'll answer that question first. There's definitely some things that we're going to do different schematically to give our guys a better chance at that. Sometimes, and it's probably just something that I have to do a better job of is understanding, how do I want to put this? I'll just leave it at that, making sure that we give them the tools necessary to stop the run, whether that be an extra hat, whatever the case may be. As far as the defensive line, again, as I said, it's going to be a recurring theme. Feel really good about really 4 or 5 at both of those positions, at defensive end and defensive tackle. I look at them as 1A, 1B, and it's a luxury to have those guys. But when you look at them rushing the passer on the front four, the biggest difference so far from this camp to last year is we're getting some pressure from the inside. It's not necessarily just on the edges to be able to push that pocket. That's just as important. When you look back at last year, we were one of the best teams in the country at pressuring the quarterback. I think we're middle of the road in sacking the quarterback. It's all got to work together, meaning front and coverage, but also the front four. There were several times our ends were right there. If we could have got a little more push inside, quarterback goes down. So been pleased, especially inside, with those guys getting the push this year that we need.
Coach, early impressions
Like
of
your hat, man.
Oh, thanks, appreciate it. Early impressions of DJ Pickett. What have you seen from him through the first 10 days of camp?
DJ has grown so much from when we had him in bowl practices to spring practice to now. 10 days in, he's a freshman. There's been some days where we got to continue to work on his consistency. But the biggest improvement from spring to fall has been his physicality. He has done a really, really good job tackling this fall. In the spring, there were some moments where, and again, he's put on, 20 pounds or something like that since he's been here. So the weight room's going to build confidence from that standpoint. But I've been more impressed with his physicality so far than the coverage skills and stuff. He's always had that, and he's gotten better. Don't get me wrong, but his physicality he's turned it up a notch this fall camp.
Coach, is there a play call or two you wish you had back from last year, or game planning? And what do you think made your team improve as it did toward the end of the season?
Yeah, Yeah, any coordinator that came up here and says he doesn't wish he had a call back is lying through his teeth. There's some that definitely stick out more than others. The thing, again, kind of answering the question earlier, I think I got a better feel as our personnel as the season went on, and I think that's kind of why we improved. There's some things that we did that weren't necessarily in my DNA later in the year, but again, as a coordinator, you got to adapt to what you have and adapt to the schemes that you're going to see, and I think that's what we did good as a defensive staff as the year rolled on.
Coach, with your linebacker room, you've been able to sort of rotate guys in and out of those first-team spots. Like Keelan had some first-team reps. Tylen Singleton's made some nice plays. Like, how do you think the depth of that room has sort of come together behind, obviously, the Weeks brothers and Harold?
Yeah, I think that's a big part of this week. To me, this is kind of a big evaluation for those guys. Whit and Harold obviously coming off injuries. Devon's played a lot of football, even though he's just a sophomore. Wes has played a lot of football. I know he obviously redshirted last year. So I want to get an evaluation on those younger guys and how they're doing, not just necessarily against who they've been going against on a daily basis. Throw them out there with the ones and the twos. You never know how a guy's going to elevate his game until you put him into that situation. And I'd much rather do it now and see how they respond than, first or second, third game of the season. So that's kind of the premise behind that. But I've been pleased with those guys, man. I'm on them hard. It's a prideful group. Those three freshmen in particular. I'm coaching them probably harder than anyone on the field, and they're probably about sick of me by now. But they keep showing up every day and coming to work. So that's all we can ask.
Coach, Bernard Gooden has been flashing a lot, very twitchy off the ball really fast. What is it for him in the run game specifically with his size, but yet being able to push the pocket in the interior that you've seen and liked?
Yeah, I love. That was a great pickup. Bernard Gooden has been a joy in every sense of the word to coach. He is high energy. Y'all probably hear him more than anyone on the field. But in today's game, you even look in the NFL, there's not many. A lot of really, really successful defensive tackles are going to be between 280 and 305 pounds. The thing that he does really well, because he is so twitchy and has such good get-off, his second foot's in the ground before the offensive lineman. So even though he might be giving up 30 pounds, he's able to get leverage and get power, and the offensive lineman doesn't have his second foot in the ground. So, one of the things that we did through the evaluation process, obviously being an undersized guy, is really evaluate him hard against the run, and we really liked what we saw, and we really, really like what we see up to this point. He's done a great job creating havoc and holding point.
You already talked about the depth you feel like you have at tackle and linebacker. It's, I think, sometimes even tough to tell like who's ones and twos right now because you're rotating so much. Is part of that right now still, are you still evaluating guys for starting positions, or is it just all experience for these guys right now?
It's a combination of both. It's a really good question. Like right now, how many times do we have the same 11 guys on the field throughout a practice? It's probably pretty rare if you were to sit there and chart it. Again, part of it is to evaluate him as a starter. Part of him to evaluate is to see, okay, when this guy gets thrown in with the other, quote-unquote ones, how does he respond? Some guys elevate their game, some guys don't. And then again, there is a lot of positions that are genuine, and this is not coach speak, that are genuinely up in the air right now. And that's a positive. It just speaks to the quality of depth that we have. But across the board, to sit here and say, I would say there's very few bona fide starters that I'm going to say, okay, this guy on the 30th is going to be the first one out there. And that's a good problem to have. It's competitive depth. I've been so impressed with how all these guys are working together too. They are striving together to become the best defense they can be. There's no pettiness. There's no, I'm not going to tell you to check because I want your job. You know what I mean? So it's been encouraging.
This might kind of play in with that, but just my question, I'm curious about the assimilation of the team. You talked about the new pieces that you got. Why was it right? Brian talked about it being the right time for that. Why is it right? How did it work out? And then what is it like from a coaching perspective working with Kyle as well for the first time?
Yeah, this, again, we haven't lost a game yet, but this is one of the most fun defenses I've ever coached. It is a group of guys that are all pulling the rope in the same direction. And again, that came through the evaluation process, whether it be freshmen or portal guys. I think Coach Kelly's built a tremendous culture here, and those guys became one of us. It wasn't a mercenary here and a mercenary there. They all came together very, very quickly. And so it's been fun. It's an unselfish group. Coach Williams has been a blast, man. It's fun picking his brain about stuff on the field and then stuff off the field. He's in the league for 13 years and kind of just telling old training camp stories right now and stuff. He's a joy to be around. He's been very, very fun to work with.
Hey, Blake. Dominic McKinley, just how different of a football player is he from this time last year to today?
Yeah, I think he's a lot more confident. Obviously we didn't have him last spring, and it's hard. Some guys pick it up quicker, some don't, but when you haven't been here in spring and your first acclimatization is fall camp, sometimes it takes a little bit longer. And he's still making strides. He's improving every single day, but I think more than anything, if you were to ask any guy too, just year two in the scheme, he's not thinking about, oh, what do I do on this call, what do I do on that call, which allows him to play faster and more confident. But again, I think it's been talked about. Bruce Feldman's freak list, he was top 10 or whatever. The weight room, as much as anything, builds your confidence out there on the football field, and I think that's starting to show up.
Coach, as a guy that's got to scheme and go up against opposing quarterbacks, when you see Garrett Nussmeier at practice and the way he's running and directing the offense, what do you see out of him as the leader of this team?
He's a pain in the butt. I know that. He's a really, really good player. He's very smart. He does a phenomenal job understanding coverage and how to look that coverage up. He's done a really, really good job this camp. It's been written about a ton as far as extending plays. But, again, of all those things, the thing that he does off the field and the way that he leads, and he's not afraid to speak, he's what you want in a quarterback, in my opinion. When you talk about, there's quarterbacks that sometimes are really good players and they're quiet leaders, but he's outspoken and the guys rally behind him. So it's been fun.
Blake, Jacoby, and Gilroy, Whitweeks, Harold Perkins, all coming off injuries. How do they look? And do you feel like now this is the fit with Perk and Starr?
Yeah, I think that all three of them look really, really good. Again, we're being smart in how we manage their reps. We're listening to them. They know their body better than anybody, but they really haven't skipped a beat. Again, you really couldn't tell. Had you not known, you would not know that any three had off-season surgery. And I do. I think this is the best fit for Starr. One of the things that we did after the injury is Perk and I sat down, and he's such a good young man. I asked him, what position do you want to play? He's like, whatever you want me to play, Coach. I said, no, Harold, what do you want to play? And he said, Coach, I think I'll be best at Starr. And so a lot of that, I do that a lot with guys because if they believe that's their best position, they're probably going to be most comfortable there. So he looks really, really comfortable out there. Like I said earlier, he can do it all. He can cover, he can blitz. He's got great range in zone. He's kind of tailor-made for that job.
What were some of the things philosophically or specifically that worked later in the year that weren't part of your DNA, like you mentioned?
Yeah, I don't necessarily want to put it out there, just from future game planning opponents. So, good try though. Anything else? Appreciate y'all. Have a good one.